Hey everyone, welcome to Patriot vs. Soapbox, where I give you my commentary on the news of the day as reported by the Wall Street Journal. Now, let's get started. So, the headline picture is Candles Light Up Beirut as protesters press for a new government. So, Beirut is the capital of Lebanon, and they want a new government that'll deal with their economic crisis a little better. But given the history of revolutions in the Middle East, even if they do manage to depose the government, which they probably won't, then it ain't gonna go very well for them after that. So, yeah, that's not gonna, no matter how much they protest, for the foreseeable future, things aren't gonna go well for protesters. The United States has taken in $7 billion in September in import tariffs, according to new statistics. So that sign that that on one hand tariffs are working and bringing in more revenue, on the other hand it is starting to slow down the U.S. economy because tariffs are stupid and they always lead to retaliation tariffs, and oftentimes tariffs imposed by a country are paid for by that country, so, or rather its citizens and businesses. So yeah, it's a lose-lose scenario. As I believe I've said before, the governor of Kentucky has declared that I'd said before that the race in Kentucky was too close to call, but the governor still won't concede defeat. And the governor's a Republican. His opponent, the Democrat, led apparently by 5,189 votes, which is considered too close to call out of over 1.4 million votes cast. So that, however, didn't stop the Democratic governor from listing out all the policies he plans to, already saying out an agenda for his governorship. So a little premature, I think, given this likely lead to a court challenge, but you know. Impeachment has finally gone public, so it's no longer closed door hearings, it's now open doors for public commentary and Trump's lawyers, so yay. President Trump he's celebrating the fact that he is on track to become the president with the most judicial appointees, except maybe George Washington, because he was the first president and had to appoint every judge to start in the federal court system. But besides Washington, Trump is on his way to having the most judicial appointments, and that's certainly a goal of his. Thus far, is a total of over 150 judges to the federal court system. So those who don't know, the federal courts are divided into district, appellate, and Supreme Court. So there's several district courts, less appellate courts, and one Supreme Court. And that's where you get the term. You see in the news like the Ninth Circuit or the Fifth Circuit. Those usually come up because the Ninth Circuit encompasses the West Coast, Alaska, and Hawaii, and therefore, since the judges are obviously from their circuits, they're more liberal. And the Fifth Circuit is, I believe, Texas, Arkansas, and Louisiana, maybe Oklahoma too, and therefore they tend to be a little more conservative. So the Ninth Circuit keeps launching nationwide injunctions when it comes to Trump's policies, especially relating to immigration, which Attorney General William Barr has denounced, saying that a court that has jurisdiction over only one area of the U.S. should stick to its area. It's the Supreme Court that can overturn federal laws, or block the president's or Congress's moves, not the circuit courts. So yeah, those over 150 judicial nominees would include two Supreme Court justices, 43 appellate court or judges, which means that Trump is now appointed. He's now appointed about a quarter of the entire appellate court system. That's a lot of people. 1/4, or just 1/4 are Trump appointees. That doesn't include all the other conservative judges that have been appointed by past presidents. So that's quite a record, and definitely shaping up the courts to be conservative, which is why the courts are now a big issue the makeup of it, are now a big issue for Democrats as they seek to pack the courts, especially the Supreme Court, with liberal cronies and control policy forever. So yeah, that's why the court's such a big issue, because now there's so many conservatives that they're freaking out about their horrible laws being overturned. So let's hope that Trump is the guy who would appoint, besides George Washington, who gets to appoint most judges. Although, then again, there weren't as many states when George Washington was president. So as the U.S. has expanded, they've needed more judges. So maybe Trump really would be the guy who appointed the most, because there weren't as many to appoint when George Washington was around. Also, there were only 6 Supreme Court justices, not 9. Yeah, I don't know on that one. But so it could be Trump, could be George Washington. Who knows? And a lot of those, and what's really pissing Democrats off is that a lot of those nominees are thanks to the fact that Mitch McConnell, starting in 2014 when the Republicans regained the Senate, stalled all of Obama's judicial nominees, including a Supreme Court justice in 2016 when Antonin Scalia died. And so this is McConnell's strategy. If he could hold off these he'd wait for the 2016 election, because if a Republican became president, then a Republican could fill all those, and conservatives would be dictating policy for a while. However, if a liberal won in 2016, then McConnell's efforts wouldn't matter, and then he'd confirm the justices. Strategic move, totally legal and constitutional, a little shady and sneaky, but still legal. Infuriated Democrats, because Neil Gorsuch was the guy who, instead of the guy who Obama appointed. His name is escaping me. See, that's how not important he is. But yeah. So it's like, I mean, Republicans have asked Democrats, well, how would you feel if what if there was a Republican president and a Democrat said Senate, and then Ruth Bader Ginsburg died? Would you guys would you support the Senate Democrats stalling a conservative nominee? Because that's equivalent to like Antonin Scalia dying for the Republicans with Ginsburg dying for the Democrats. That's equivalent. Then donors apparently, campaign donors, especially nonprofits, are worried about the wealth tax, or rather just inquisitive about it, trying to figure out some of the particulars, like whether they'll be affected, because they know that billionaires, if they're hit with the wealth tax, will likely either A, head for the hills, or B, they start putting more money into charity so it's not like their own personal assets, and they could create their own charities to hide their money. So as long as there's taxes, rich people will always find a way out of them. Always. I mean, they might lose a little wealth to the wealth tax initially, but once they get those nonprofits up and running, or just join to ones that already exist, then no taxes. So yeah, that's why they're curious. Also, I mentioned that the Mexican drug cartel attacked American citizens. Now, those citizens apparently were divided up in 3 SUVs and driving through Mexico. New court evidence is suggesting that it could have been mistaken identity, that not a deliberate attack on America, because those SUVs, that's what drug dealers and cartels typically drive. So it's possible that the cartel that took him out thought it was a rival gang. Possible, not confirmed. So I'll get back to you on that once more news is out. But so far, prosecutors in the court system aren't exactly certain what happened. They know what happened. American citizens died, but they don't know motives. So I will let you know what the motives are once I myself actually learn them. And then in the op-eds today, there's an article asking if Elizabeth Warren has wrecked the political left with her policies, because the argument basically goes that her policies are way too detailed, meaning that progressives have always had that sort of how you say it, like that emotional, aspirational rhetoric aspect to them, and then which turns out to be disastrous policy once people stupidly vote for them and realize just what they're truly saying. But Elizabeth Warren's gone in so much detail with her plans. Like, as I said, you know what I've said about her healthcare plan in this article, saying you almost have to admire a candidate who vows to quadruple spending referring to the fact that she proposed to quadruple federal spending to $800 billion. Education should be a state issue anyway, not for the government to fund. And she's proposing $800 billion. That's more than the Department of the Defense gets. $800 billion. Defense budget's only like $650 to $700 billion a year. And then this is on top of her $1.07 trillion universal child care plan. What? Over $1 trillion for child care? What kind of spending is that? Why? She only proposing $800 trillion for schools, and there's more people in school. There's more kids in school or more in childcare, just by virtue of the fact that school spending would be like K through 12, whereas childcare is only like a couple of years, like ages 3 and 4, 5 if they have an early birthday. But what? $1 trillion? It's insane. I don't even know if there's not that much private spending on childcare. It's absurd. Oh, and then there's this one. There's another op-ed that just briefly mentions the fact that Adam Schiff, the guy who currently leading the impeachment circus, like he had recently revealed that his plans before going to politics, like he initially planned to join theater, and he actually wrote courtroom drama scripts and spy thrillers. I think we know then where he gets his whole the impeachment drama from. Probably his failed acting career. So yeah, if you ever wondered, there you go. And then there's this article entitled "AntiRepublican Trend," referencing the fact that after Obama's quote unquote polarizing governance starting in 2010, Republicans took back the House, then state legislatures and governorships, and then the Senate, and then the presidency. And now it's starting to be rolled back under President Trump's more polarizing talk, as Democrats are slowly clawing back those things. Like they just got the House, they're starting to get more governorships and legislatures, and so if the pattern keeps up, it could be the Senate and then the presidency next. God forbid. But I'm just saying, if history's any guide, then you know. And finally, there's one article comparing some of Trump's attributes to those of other presidents. It says mainly comparing him to FDR because of the boundless confidence in himself, an illusionist. This says Mr. Trump is known to lie, but unlike FDR, Trump's a businessman. FDR sucked at business, which explains the economic policies, like the New Deal. Then it says unlike Calvin Coolidge, Mr. Trump is a bit of a loudmouth. Unlike Teddy Roosevelt and Woodrow Wilson, Trump doesn't read books, which makes him a little bit like Eisenhower, because both of them are very good at management since from Trump's business and Eisenhower's military experience. And Eisenhower read Western novels to put him to sleep. So yeah, and then they talk about how people call Trump racist, and yet there are 12 American presidents that owned slaves, and several others who were pretty racist. Like Woodrow Wilson demanded that federal employees, if they're mailing in job applications, put in a photo so they could be discriminated on based on race. And then Truman and LBJ frequently used the L word, or the N word rather, when before taking office. And so those three guys were Democrats, in case you didn't know. And so, given that and the fact that Abraham Lincoln, a Republican, freed the slaves, who's really the racists? So, and then it says like JFK and Bill Clinton, Trump has a history of marital infidelity, and then a whole bunch of other comparisons. So, yeah. And then finally, we have Berlin. After asking for one for quite some time, the city of Berlin, Germany, finally gets its statue of Ronald Reagan just outside the U.S. Embassy, because they've been wanting for a while because he was the tear down this wall guy. So good for them. They got the Reagan statue. All right, everyone. That's it for this time. Patriot Soapbox. Don't forget to like and subscribe to get you more great content daily.